On today's show, it took a big comeback, but the Cleveland Cavaliers got a big dub against the Boston Celtics. Let's talk about it on a new episode of Locked On Cavs for Tuesday, March 7th.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast.
All right, the music you heard on the way in is from our friends at Astra Radio. I'm Chris Manning from Diamond UPROXX, from SB Nation Through the Sword, from Forbes, from the Just Basketball Show. That man over there is Evan Dammarell, the proprietor of One Right Down Euclid. This episode is, as always, produced by the indomitable Jake Stevens. Check him out as the mayor here on Spotify. Big show today. Segment 1, I'll give our Cavs Celtic big takeaway. That was certainly a crazy up and down basketball game with, I think, two sides to it. We'll get into. Segment 2, we'll give it our game awards. That's MVP, that is stat of the night and play of the night. And lastly, we'll hit some of the minor things from this game, some of the hit things. I suspect in that segment we'll be talking quite a bit about one Lamar Stevens. But Evan, big picture for me this game. This game was needed. This win was needed. Cleveland has had issues playing with effort. Cleveland has had issues, I think, putting together full games. They didn't exactly do that here, but a win is a win, and the comeback, the competition, the effort they showed down the stretch. To quote Daniel Plainview, my steak eating, chewing in his bowling alley king. To paraphrase him, let's say, the Cavs had a competition in them for the fourth quarter and for overtime. Donovan Mitchell's that dude with the hustle. They got it done in a way that they absolutely probably would prefer not to have, but a win is a win.
Yeah, I 100% agree. A win is a win, and especially considering how the Cavs got punked by the Celtics a couple games prior, 2 games prior to this one. And this was just an odd game. Like, the Celtics just had a double overtime thriller against the Knicks, and they lost. There's no Jason Tatum. There's no Al Horford. There's no Time Lord in this one. You could tell that there's blood in the water, and the Cavs didn't smell it at first. And you saw mostly Jaylen Brown, and then the better part of Grant Williams before those final free throws, and even some strong minutes from Luke Cornett and then Marcus Smart as well. The Celtics really took it to the Cavs and took advantage of the fact that Cleveland just came out flat and was reeling a little bit for the better part of the first half. And it's interesting just now that there's 2 games in a row like this where Cleveland comes out flat in the first half, makes a lot of adjustments in the second half, and just kind of finds a way to win the game. But like you said, this was a needed win for Cleveland just because it helps them maintain pace against the Knicks for that 4 or 5 toss-up. It keeps them within striking distance of Philadelphia for the 3rd seed. There's a lot of implications outside of it, but more than anything, this is just a win morality-wise that you probably need, just because we've talked about this a lot on this show, especially in the second half of the season. The Cavs find themselves in these situations more often than not where they get sucker punched to start a game and they're clawing their way back into this one. And sometimes it results in a win, but sometimes it also results in a loss. And at least recently it's resulted in a loss. So it's encouraging to see a little bit of a sign of growth in that regard. Maybe some maturing as well as this Cavs team kind of continues to adjust and get ready for this playoff push that they're heading on. And we'll see where it goes from here. But yeah, this is a much needed win. And surprisingly enough, Lamar Stevens was the dude who really sparked it for them. And we'll talk about him more in the 3rd segment. But
yeah,
JB Bickerstaff said it best. The Cavs didn't want to lose because Lamar was busting his butt out there and they didn't want to let him down. And I think there's something endearing about that, of course. But I think there's a lot of truth to that statement where you just have a guy who's playing really hard like that, and it just has a little bit of a trickle down effect, especially just in the 4th quarter where the Cavs seized a little bit of that momentum and finally rode it to the end of the game.
The Lamar thing is obviously, I think, a big deal, but I don't really want to skip past Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley either.
No, not at all. But Mitchell said in the second half, Mitchell came out hot in the first half. In the second half, he struggled. Okay, I mean, he's 6 of 17 from the floor, but still.
Here's the thing. You had a couple guys in this game you had only a few guys in this game that showed up and just played hard the entire time, that didn't get caught up in that thing. Donovan Mitchell's superpower in this game was effort. Donovan Mitchell shows up from the get-go and was not like just like lollygagging, or like I thought Darius at times like really was getting frustrated with the officiating and letting it bothering him. I thought, like you didn't get like really effortful minutes from like Dean Wade. Rubio was kind of a nothing in this game. Mitchell's
so
busting
scarce, LeVert.
LeVert at least like had like the block and like did some things where like you could see him like at least trying, and then like it just didn't totally work. Mitchell shows up from the moment this game starts and is effortful on both ends of the floor, is confident, it is making it competitive. There is no way that Lamar is in a position to come in and make a difference in the fourth quarter unless Donovan Mitchell shows up and is there the entire game. And then Evan Mobley was the second best player for Cleveland in this game. He was 10 of 14 from the field, 25 points, 17 boards and assists, 3 block shots. Did like only we don't have like the matchup stats in front of us yet, and like I'm gonna go back and watch some of these, but like did a really unbelievable job every time he was switched on to Jaylen Brown. And like, yes, Jaylen Brown's the second out of a back-to-back, all of this stuff, but he also just showed and played with effort. Those two guys on a night where like pretty much everyone else on the roster did not really play that hard or seem that energized. Those two guys were playing so freaking hard and focused and driving things that it like allows you to have Lamar play big in the fourth quarter and in overtime, and for Darius to have some really big moments late, and Okoro to have some good moments. Like, those were the two guys to me. As much as Lamar deserves credit, and we'll talk about him, Mobley and Mitchell being the effort guys, your effort superstars, was a huge deal to me.
Oh yeah, you and I are in agreement. Like at first, from wire to wire, like Mobley and Mitchell both came to play. I actually noted originally as my MVP was Evan Mobley because he was, other than Donovan Mitchell, the only guy to show up tonight. But I think just in terms of the Stevens aspect, like it gave them a spark in the fourth quarter when I at least noticed this trend where every time the Cavs would go on a mini run, Joe Mazzulla would call a timeout, and then the Celtics would make adjustments to kind of stymie what the Cavs were doing to kind of halt any momentum. And then you saw the Cavs kind of keep chipping away. And then Stevens, I just think, kind of gave them just a little bit of a spark and allowed them to dig deep when it matters most. But to your point about Donovan Mitchell, his motor is insane. Like we wax poetic about Donovan Mitchell every single game, every single time we talk about a post game show about him, and he's worth the price of admission and then some. And like, he was so clutch for the Cavs that he even got in Grant Williams' head enough to make Grant Williams miss both free throws and force overtime in that scenario too. Just jokes aside, but it's insane to see how hard and how hot his motor runs consistently. Like, he is banged up. He's dealing with a finger injury. He's playing through the pain of that. We don't know if he's 100% with the groin issue as well. I asked JB Bickerstaff about that post game, just with like Mitchell's motor, and it's just like it's impressive in the fact that like the Cavs were giving him opportunities and saying like, hey, we can sit you down for a little bit. And Mitchell's just like, no, I'm going to keep going out there and keep hooping. And like, there's something endearing about that. And I think it also, as you said, just in the superstar aspect, like he's your key leader on this team. To see him kind of just go blow for blow with Jaylen Brown like that down the stretch was fun to watch. And it's just, again, like Donovan Mitchell is your offensive catalyst more often than not most nights. And this is just another good instance of it. Like, he was just unfreaking real. And I think you could really just tell, like, he really wanted this win, especially when the final buzzer sounded in overtime and he marched to half court and slammed the ball on the ground and started screaming.
Yeah. They needed this. Like, this is a win that we will see what comes next. They play in Miami on Wednesday, and then again on Friday. They play the Hornets twice over the weekend, and you have to absolutely beat the Hornets twice. You can, unless like something an asteroid hits the Earth, they absolutely like.
If an asteroid hits the Earth, the Cleveland Cavaliers playing the Charlotte Hornets is the least of my concerns. At that
that's
point.
what I'm saying.
I hope it is everyone who's listening right now.
No, that's not my point. My point is that like, unless like something insane happens, like you have to beat the Hornets, who are awful.
Oh, absolutely. They're objectively a bad team. Even with LaMelo out there, they're objectively a bad team. And like, LaMelo's
done for the year. So like that team is done. That team is in the race for Wemby. You have to just like, if you're a good team, you show up and you take care of business and you like just move on. This is a win that like, with the effort and the way some of these other teams in the East are playing, the way Philly is playing above you, the way the Knicks are playing below you, and you're probably getting the Knicks in round 1. Those are teams that are playing really hard and really connected basketball, and the Cavs have not of late. There's a lot of games where they have not, and until they turned it around in this game, it was the exact kind of opposite performance that has kind of not been there for them of late, and that is something to watch going forward. This game, also, like frankly, like they're now a game and a half back up on the Knicks. This would have put they only would have been a half a game up on the Knicks had they lost this game. So that in itself, I think, is worth noting as well. Let's come back after the break. Let's get into game awards. That'll be MVP. That'll be stat of the night, and that'll be play of the night. But first, got to tell you about our friends at Built Bar. This episode is brought to you by Built Bar. If you're looking for a delicious treat, but you don't want all the fat and the calories, then you got to try Built Bar. Look, everyone just got through the holidays, and you're trying to eat healthier. If you're like me, you want to eat healthier, but you don't want to compromise on taste. So you got to try Built. With Built, healthy is actually tasty. They're so delicious, you wouldn't even think they're good for you. That's perfect for those New Year's resolutions. What makes Built Bar so good? Well, for starters, they're covered in 100% real chocolate. That's right, real chocolate. And they come in unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie. They have the cookie dough puffs back. They have vanilla back, coconut almond. They have a ton of great flavors. And what's even better, again, is that their macros are awesome. Only 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, and a whopping 17 grams of protein in most of these bars. And I don't even need to wait around to get a box. For years, we've been telling you to go to Built.com to order your bars. Now, you can get them at your local Walmart or Sam's Club. At Walmart, go to the pharmacy section, get yourself a box of Built Bars. You can get a 4-pack of cookies and cream, double chocolate, or coconut puffs. And if you're near a Sam's Club, go in, get a 13-bar box with hit flavors, brownie batter, and churro. Thank us later for that. Check out Built today and order at Built.com if you're not near one of those stores. All right, game awards. Evan, who's your MVP?
Well, I think the obvious picks are Evan Mobley and Donovan Mitchell in this one, but I'm going to say Lamar Stevens just because, again, he had a lot of big plays. He had that huge three-pointer where he said, at least post-game, that Karis LeVert could have taken that shot, but the Cavs had enough faith and trust in him to just go ahead and go through with it. And the fact that you asked JB about this post-game, he plays 19 seconds in the first half. He doesn't play until the start of the fourth quarter or midway into the fourth quarter. And then he plays all of overtime, and he was a catalyst for this Cavs team and kind of brought a lot of energy on both sides of the ball, and that's endearing, at least. I mean, I know you and I poke fun off the air at the Junkyard Dog Shane, but hey, he kind of epitomizes what this team kind of is defensively. And I also think Donovan Mitchell saying when Lamar speaks, everyone listens. That kind of speaks volumes to what kind of player he is for this team, and it showed tonight.
Yeah, he had a very, very good game, and he's, I think, a very reasonable MVP pick. I'm just gonna go Donovan Mitchell because actually I'm gonna go Evan Mobley because Evan Mobley, I have both in document, and you can't really make me pick one if I'm being honest, but what Mitchell and him did in this game was just Evan Mobley had a game where he just kind of went toe to toe with Jaylen Brown in a lot of ways and did everything on offense. He took threes with confidence. Doesn't make all of them, right? But he's they're presenting themselves and he's taking them. He has a couple dunks where it's his handle is really tight and he gets an offhanded left-handed dunk at the rim. He did everything you kind of wanted him to do in this game. Aggressive Mobley was there. And Evan on a night and against a team that has done a really good job against Jared Allen. And I think we should have a Jared Allen conversation on Tuesday. I know you've really wanted to, and this is an opponent that has kind of really taken Allen out of games with some of the schematic stuff they were doing, and there's a lot there that I think could come up again in the playoffs. Mobley just stepped up. He was the center they went to in overtime. They didn't go back to Allen. They stick with Mobley. Mobley's the third best player on this team now. He is. He just is. He is there. He's a better two-way. He is better than Jared Allen now, and I don't really think it's arguable. It's not close. He is ascending to this level that we are on the path where Evan Mobley, if he's aggressive, if he shows up in the playoffs right away, he could be one of the breakout stars of the first round of the playoffs. He is playing that well right now. He is on that path.
I think him being a breakout star is definitely on track for him. I think just with how well he's played, especially post All-Star break, he's just seems like he's starting to put it all together offensively at times in terms of just the fluidity of the shot. And like you said, he didn't make all of his attempts. At least he's taking them with confidence, and you're also seeing him becoming more of a playmaker and involved in that aspect, but it's a two-way stardom. And I always kind of felt that Evan Mobley was the third best star on the Cavs. just because Jared Allen's so low usage, but he's in Allen's defense, he's consistent. Like he will give you a double most nights. These last 2 games against the Celtics notwithstanding. And to your point, like Mobley was playing really well and embraced playing the 5. Something he kind of shrinked at doing early in the season.
Well, physically wasn't up to.
Yeah, physically wasn't up to is more so what I'm looking for here. It's just like physically wasn't capable of playing the center for extended runs when Allen was out. Now you're kind of seeing it just kind of come together where like he's a lot more comfortable, and you see a lot of it too. Like you said, he spent a lot of time defending Jaylen Brown and he was doing it very well. And I believe, at least last I checked, he's still the top isolation defender in the league. And that's absolutely nutty for me to think about. And this could be a breakout kind of moment for him, especially with the playoffs looming for Cleveland. And more than anything, like this just kind of further crystallizes the case that he is a all defensive player this year. Like he's just that impactful on the defensive side of the ball for Cleveland. And again, is like such a floor raiser on that side of the ball that kind of puts Cleveland in these winning situations more often than not lately.
All right, stat of the night. Mine, we don't need to get into. We're going to talk about him more in segment 3, but plus 18 plus minus for Lamar. That is a flawed stat. Singling and plus minus is flawed and all of that. But like that just like jumps off the box score. What's your stat?
This is the first time the Cavs have beaten a team that is over 500 since February 2nd of this year. And also they are now 7-0 to overtime. A couple with that. Like those are 2 pretty nutty stats, just considering how young and inexperienced this team is, just in terms of just like clutch, close time situations like this.
All right, play of the night. Your
pick is surprising because the clear answer is the Luke Cornett, just like yam from Donovan Mitchell.
Yes, but okay, but like this isn't surprising. This pick isn't surprising for me because I wrote this down 9:01 in the fourth quarter, and this immediately jumps off the page to me. Mitchell misses. He gets his own offensive rebound, and he gets it to LeVert for a corner 3. What changed this game as much as Lamar Stevens did is that Donovan Mitchell is a 2-way superstar who is playing with effort every freaking second he's on the court.
The 3 words I thought we'd never really say ever in my life is Donovan Mitchell is a 2-way superstar.
He was not doing this last year in Utah.
No.
He was not. He never has done what he's doing in Cleveland in Utah. He is not. He is playing with effort every freaking second he's on the floor. This guy, when you watch him, one of the things we've said this a lot that pops with him in person is how much body control he has and how explosive he is in his movements. His footwork and his ability to like change direction very quickly is incredible. But he's now applying that athleticism and that motor to diving for loose balls on the floor and following up his own misses. This guy is just like when the best player on your team is doing this, that is really like that means a lot to me. When I'm thinking about like what like the effort level he's going to demand of Garland and demand of everyone and Mobley and Mitchell and Okoro and like Stevens and Rubio, like he is going to bring out like the best of guys, and he's either going to say like I'm going to drag you with me into trying to win a playoff series, or you can get along and help me. And he's going to demand the best of these guys. Those are the plays that are going to like that Mitchell is putting himself like he's putting himself on the front line of all the dirty work when he does that stuff. That is a really big deal, that kind of play. What's your play of the night?
I mean, speaking of dirty work, editor Jake knows this, but he probably has some Steely Dan sweatpants he's chilling in on his way home right now. But my play of the night is just the Luke Cornett dunk. Just the fact that like Mitchell, again, isn't 100% physically. We don't know if he's feeling right after the groin tweak just because they're so tricky that he's playing. It does not seem like that is bothering him based on the dunks that he had in this game. Oh, for sure. Or just like the fact that his finger is sprained and it bent a way that a finger is not supposed to bend, and he's just able to, again, and this is like a late game play. Like he plays with so much athleticism. He plays like so balls to the wall. Like every play is his last one. Every single time he goes out there on offense, and he's just hunting the Celtics. And like, it's weird. Like not weird, but like, it's just incredible to watch, I think is the way I want to put it, is that he's able to just will the Cavs to victory some nights. And like plays like that, you're like, whew, I don't know about that dude right there, but he's something. And he's going to, like you said, he's going to take the Cavs as far as he can. And he's going to drag the guys that are struggling, and also he's going to make guys get in line and follow him by example, just because I don't know, if I played for this team, like I would want to bust my butt if dudes like Donovan Mitchell are giving their all like this every single night.
If Donovan Mitchell does this, there's no reason for anyone else on the roster not to do it.
No. And it's just 70, I would say 70 to 75, maybe even 80% of just how he's played this year is MVP level stuff, and he isn't going to win the MVP at the end of the day. But like, he's going
to be on.
He's all NBA. He's a lock. He's putting forward. He's a lock to be all NBA. I don't know if it's first, second, or third team, but he will crack that roster some way, some short form.
Which would be the first of his career. There is no doubt that guy should be on an all-NBA team. All right, we're gonna come back. We're gonna get into Lamar Stevens talk because like he really deserves some credit here. And we'll talk a little bit about Dean Wade too in relation to that, because I'm maybe thinking about something in specific of those two based on how things are going as of late. But first, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Look, we're at the midway point of the NBA season. We're a little past it, honestly. And now is the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That is bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. All you got to do is download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It is safe, secure, and super easy to use. Then you can bet on everything from the money line to point scores and threes drained. You know, right now in their app, they have this builder. You can do to build parlays of 20-plus point scores. That is a fun way to pick through different matchups and just kind of maybe build something about guys you think are going to go off on a given night in the league. And like with the playoffs coming, like they have title odds, obviously. And like I love the Nuggets at plus 800. That is a team that is fully capable of going off and winning a title. And you get that at 8-1. That is the fourth best odds. That is behind, Boston, Milwaukee, and Phoenix. And like it's noticeably behind those three teams. I kind of like the value of the Nuggets at plus 800. So
I don't hate that, but I'd lean towards Milwaukee if I had to pick.
I don't think that's wrong, but it's just like the value at plus 800 if Jokic does this. That's like, I don't mind that. Plus, remember, FanDuel can even let you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with a same-game parlay. So don't miss a chance to get your no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/LockedOn. That is FanDuel.com/LockedOn to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, last one. Locked On Cavs. Chris Manning and Evan Dammarell here. So Lamar Stevens, as we've hit on, comes in the fourth quarter. The Cavs are looking like literally. This was like, hey, we need a guy. Who's the guy on the roster who's bigger and can play the wing and is going to try? That's Lamar Stevens, and it is not hyperbole to say that he changed the game.
No, I don't think it's hyperbole at all. It's just, to your point, up to that point, it's Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley willing the Cavs on either end of the floor, especially on defense. Again, two-way star Donovan Mitchell is still crazy to say, but Lamar Stevens just checks in after just being cold for the better part of the game, and he's just always ready. Like, he's always ready no matter the moment. He isn't fazed by it, and he is, I know it's maybe a little overblown at times, but he is the cultural leader for this Cavs team at times. And
at least like a role guy who like gives them an edge. I think a cultural leader feels like strong, but he's a guy that like gives a SHIT.
Okay, that's a good way to put it too. It's just, he plays hard every time he's out there. Maybe he's not making the 3-pointers, but he plays hard. And like, that's endearing enough. But like the fact that like the dudes on this roster just gravitate to that to begin with off the court, it makes sense naturally that they gravitate to it on the court as well. And like the 3-pointer to me is probably just like the biggest play Lamar Stevens made, other than the offense, just the career high offensive rebounds he had tonight as well. But just that 3-pointer was so big because, again, I think it just shows that confidence and belief that this team has in Lamar, and the fact that like they're just kind of rewarding him for busting his butt on either end of the floor for the second night in a row for this Cavs team.
There's two things that I think really stood out to me as far as like what he did. Number one, Boston decided that like they were just going to ignore like Cleveland's wings in a pretty noticeable fashion. So what Lamar, part of the nice thing about Lamar coming in is that he's like cutting into space and willing to do it. And that led to a lot of crashing on the offensive glass. That was a really, really big deal. Mm-hmm. Him getting the tie of the career high of offensive rebounds and getting second chance points and creating more opportunities like was a massive, massive deal. Secondly, like he just plays and like with a comfort in a way that I think you need it as a role player. And like right now, like in comparison to Dean Wade, this is like a 1-game thing. I don't know like what this means for Wednesday in Miami. I don't know if Lamar is like the right fit for every matchup, right? Like I think that is a fair thing to wonder.
Mm-hmm.
But like it is, you could totally convince me that like you should see Lamar playing Wednesday instead of Dean, right? Like Dean Wade in this game had a Ben Simmons moment. Donovan Mitchell fed him full court, and he caught the ball right at the rim, and he did not even look at the rim. He just passed it to Karis LeVert, who bricked a catch and shoot three.
Who is not shooting well at catch and shoot threes currently.
No, like, and Dean Wade was at the rim. He didn't have like there wasn't like Joel Embiid was sitting there patrolling. He just needs to like catch the ball, have the awareness of where he's at, and go up. I don't understand totally what's up with him right now. Like, there's defensive stuff that I think it often looks okay, but like every minute he plays right now, it does not feel like he's making really anything happen. And for like the 3-point stuff with Lamar has like not been a real thing. You just kind of know you're going to get a guy who's going to play hard and like do what and just at least try to contribute something. And if you're asking me like, okay, like if they need to go away from Wade right now, I would take Lamar over Jetty, and I would take Lamar over like anyone else on this roster. Like Jetty got in this game and he hit 2 threes, God bless him. But like,
yeah,
he also
that's not a disrespectful snort. I'm just like, yeah, I guess he did.
He did hit 2 threes, but it's like he was defending Malcolm Brogdon, and every time Malcolm Brogdon like slightly like poke the ball at him and set up a move, Jetty Osmond's playing Dance Dance Revolution with his feet.
Yeah.
And like that, he's going to get that you can't play that guy in the playoffs. You might be able to play you have some concerns about playing Lamar in the playoffs, but you might be able to play him in the playoffs if he's going to play with confidence and at least put in effort like he did in this game.
Yeah. And I think teams have a lot of footage of guys who are non-shooters and making them functional like Lamar Stevens just because they play so hard on defense. So they provide you so many other things. But like you said, Jetty had some DDR moments on, and you watch especially Malcolm Brogdon just carve him up in the first half, and you're like, oh, that's going to get in the leash. But Dean Wade it's odd, man, because the whole thought process behind playing him to begin with is they benched Kevin Love to play Dean Wade, and from an optics standpoint, like this is looking worse and worse. Just if you look at that exclusively that lens, and if Lamar Stevens didn't have this coming out game, I think you and I'd be kind of, I wouldn't say narrowing in or like focusing more on Dean Wade's struggles, but like Lamar is like a nice enough blanket to cover just some of Wade's issues tonight. But like he's just been like this, and even before the shoulder injury, he looked incredibly passive at times, or like he wasn't like looking to shoot when he's open on the perimeter. He was looking to pass instead, and like I think, sure, maybe it's part of it is like I'm a role player. I'm not supposed to be like demanding shots or like asking for shots within just like the offensive flow and stuff. But like if you're open, the Cavs have you out there to provide spacing. You need to take those shots to keep defenses honest. So you allow your 2 7-foot Goliaths to have more space to operate on the interior.
100%. Evan, I want to ask one last question before we get out of here.
Sure.
So the big takeaway for me in the first half and like really into the third was that like I thought they just didn't show up, and we talked about how Mitchell and Mobley were kind of the 2 guys that did.
Mm-hmm.
Does it say something to you that of late this is a Cavs team that at times has, and not everybody, it has not like been a 1 through 15 kind of thing, but is it at all like a thing to kind of monitor going forward, that against like in this game, for instance, like a Boston is the second out of a back-to-back, played 2 overtimes, was missing Tatum and Horford and Time Lord, and they looked like the team that like until they kind of ran out of gas and the jump shot stopped falling for them, were the team that was like more motivated, playing hungrier, playing more connected. Is that at all like something we should be monitoring as we're going forward with the Cavs here?
That's a fair question, because the Cavs are saying all the right things. Like Darius Garland said to me post game after the Pistons game, like he's feigning to make the playoffs, and he can say the same for everybody else on this roster. And JB Bickerstaff said like, yeah, there's a lot of excitement, and like you can tell that like these guys are committed to play past the disappointment of the play-in tournament last year. Like Lamar Stevens said to Serena Winters post game that this Cavs team wants to do something special for the city of Cleveland because they want to make the playoffs and just make some noise, and they get there. And like I'm very comfortable in saying yes, they will make the playoffs, but there are just like some small mental lapses and just some serious lack of offensive creativity that do make you somewhat concerned. Like Jaylen Brown said after they beat Cleveland and Boston not too long ago, that like they kind of have figured out how to beat the Cavs. And ultimately, until Boston kind of looked gassed a little bit, and also just Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley doing Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley things to will Cleveland to this victory, like the Celtics had it pretty much figured out. Like they were packing the paint, preventing Jared Allen from getting him going, or even getting Evan Mobley some clean looks at the basket. They were defending the Cavs really well from the perimeter. Basically, if you weren't Donovan Mitchell or Darius Garland, though, they were just daring you to shoot. And then the Celtics were getting really clean opportunities because the Cavs were overcommitting and defending on the interior versus defending out on the edge. And you saw the adjustment in the second half. Like Boston went 3 of 22, I believe, from his 3-point range in the second half. Like it's encouraging the Cavs are making adjustments. Yeah, but the playoffs are a different beast. And there's just the looming over the Cavs' heads, and as I raise my hand for the audio listeners, like this rain cloud where it's like, this is a lot of the key players' first time in the postseason. It's such a different beast. And let's say they draw New York in the first round, like that's going to be fun. There's going to be a lot of interesting off-court narratives like the Donovan Mitchell stuff. And I don't know, like I agree with the sentiment, like the Cavs match up really well with the Knicks, but the Cavs are 1-2 against New York this season with a pretty important game coming up down the pipeline here. But it depends on who they draw in the first round ultimately. But like, yeah, it's just like kind of just the similar issues where like there's just a lack of creativity offensively, or like they just don't really have the pieces either at the end of the day to kind of blanket over some of the already existing issues that's just plaguing this roster at the back end of things.
I think it is something to monitor, because I think like this is a game you would hope could be a catalyst into not having some of those issues. That like you can take this game and you say like, look what happens when we play hard and connective and we really get into the muck and try to create something, right? Like I think there is something to that.
For sure.
I also just look at like the way the Knicks are playing. Like people can like feel how they want about the Knicks and like doubt their top 2 duo and all that stuff. That team is going to be an absolutely that's going to be a dogfight first round series.
It's going to be a headache.
Like that, like you are going to deal with guys who are going to come at you constantly, who are going to compete, who like are not going to shy away from these big moments. That is what's coming for you. And you will, if you like over the course of a 7-game series, you can like, it's not like the teams that are like really there and like really like about it in that way and able to compete at the highest level do not have games like that. Like when the games really matter. And the teams that are like really figuring it out right now and peaking right now are not leading for like, yes, you will have comebacks and stuff, but like you will not have games where like it feels like absolutely like you've already lost it in the third quarter and you only end up leading for 4 minutes and 1 second of a game that goes into overtime. There is like, maybe this is the growing up phase. Maybe this is a group that is like taking that step to the next thing. But like they have to, I think like it's going to be really hard to survive. If you want to get to a real place in the playoffs, performances like this, at least like the first half of it, are just like, that is not a way you can like win sustainably in the playoffs. I don't think.
No, it's not. And like you said, like the Cavs are comfortable mucking it up and playing like grimy grit and grind basketball at times, but that's just going to gas out your guys if you want to make more than just a first round run at this. Like if you want to try and sneak into the second or make it to the second round and maybe sneak into the conference finals, like you want to make sure you're not just absolutely gassing your guys out. And the bench is just really holding back Cleveland right now. I believe they're like either in the 20s or the mid or to lower 20s in just terms of overall bench production across the league currently. And like, they got to find something. Like Ricky Rubio still isn't 100% physically. I think Karis LeVert is kind of working through some warts. Dean Wade's faded a ton. Like Lamar Stevens emerging tonight against the Celtics. Like that's encouraging, but there's a lot of questions and I don't know if we have a lot of answers right now just because you can't fix what's in front of you just giving everything you have, but we'll see. It ultimately does depend on who they draw. I agree with you. Like the Knicks are probably playing the best basketball in the NBA currently. Like they're just playing with a lot of confidence without a lot of fear either. And like our team, I would not want to like have to face in the first round just because they're going to give you your everything. But at the same time, like Cleveland could maybe find themselves a little bit on this road trip. Like JB Bickerstaff did joke that like South Beach in of itself is a bit of a struggle for visiting teams to begin with. But
wonder why. Wonder why.
But the South Beach flu is a hard disease to get past, but there are favorable matchups for Cleveland. There are unfavorable matchups for Cleveland, but I think that's the beauty of playoff basketball is we're talking about how hard it is, but we should give the Cavs the benefit of the doubt because they are on pace to have 50 wins this season as of right now. And maybe JV Bickerstaff pulls out a lot of tricks from within his sleeve. There's like we saw Roland Hughes like putting Evan Mobley on Jimmy Butler at times and stuff like that. Maybe JV Bickerstaff has some stuff in his bag that we haven't seen yet. Because interesting quote pregame, he said the Houston Rockets experience was miserable for him, and he's learning to appreciate and having fun right now coaching the Cavs. So like, I'm interested to see the kind of what tricks he has up his sleeve come playoff time too.
Look, there's the benefit of the doubt, but I think it's also just like,
there's legitimate concerns and issues, but like
it's the benefit.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's the benefit of the doubt, but it's just like you are at this point where it's like you gotta like it's winter shut up time. Like shut up. That's where this is at. That's where this is. Like that is where we're at in the season.
Well, what would your dad say to them?
My dad would just I don't even know. It's
my dad would
probably
Larry Mark from afar.
No, he's like really in on Lowry these days. Not a Harden guy though. Not a Harden guy.
As are most people. Are not Harden people.
He also is like very like angry about like how like he doesn't feel like defense is being played, and I'm just like, you're not wrong, but like also the skill level on offense right now is just like crazy.
I love it.
Maybe in August we'll just have my dad come on and he'll just like yell at me for like 30 minutes. It'll be great. All right, tomorrow's show. Let's talk about Jared Allen.
Sure.
Let's talk about the bench. And let's even just like put let's even like look ahead a little bit and like how you kind of build the bench out going forward. I think that is like a worthwhile discussion to have a little bit. Evan, I already have a player that I have like earmarked as like the perfect like Cavs like use part of your mid-level exception on them fit. And I've probably said it on the show like twice already, but it's like there's a very obvious thing I would be like, hey, do you want $7 million? Great. Also, I probably got to. Do you feel like you got to resign Lamar maybe at this point, right? Just for depth.
Yeah, for the vibes and also for depth.
Yeah, Deanway got 20 million. That's
not a bad little trade asset right there.
Yeah, wonder if you could. All right, thanks for making Locked On Cavs your first listen every day. This episode was produced by Jake Stevens. Again, check out The Merrier on Spotify or your music platform of choice. Now make your second listen game-to-game NBA every moment, every top performance, every result. Locked On Game-to-Game covers every game from across the NBA with the local analysis only Locked On can deliver. Follow Game-to-Game and Locked On NBA. That is available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts.